Dun 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 dun. Well, here we are. It's Tuesday night. It's a beautiful night. We're broadcasting. It's Tuesday night. My name is Photo Joe, and welcome to the Photo Jam. As we will, for the next hour, we'll talk about photography, things, news, anything to do with photography. You can send a question if you're listening on the very many different ways of watching this particular broadcast live stream. You might be on my website. Hopefully, it's working on my website. I'm kind of thinking it is, but I could be wrong. I don't know. So if you're on if you're on smarterdigital.com.au/live stream, you'd be watching it there. Hopefully, I'm very hopeful. I am actually just checking this out because I can do this. This is the thing about live streaming. Oh, and I think it is. It is. Oh, that's good. Yes, because that's the shirt I'm wearing. How perfect is that? That's working. Some already out there saying hello. Thank you very much for the crew who are joining us in. So that's smarterdigital.com.au/live stream. If you're on Twitch, if you're on YouTube, but you're also on Facebook Live because you got the message to say that Joe is going live. So welcome, Craig. Welcome to others. Yeah, you can, if you happen to join this little sojourn of news and stuff, join in. Come in with a question. Many things. I'll take that advertising off the front now. We'll get rid of that. There we go. Photo Jam. That was the Photo Jam. That's that button, and this is this button. So welcome. Wow. We had, next slide. We had our little noir black and white photo walk this time last week, last Tuesday. Rains were coming just like they were a bit today here in Sydney, if you're in Sydney. A week ago, we had this awesome little time walking through the streets of George Street. And boy, there were like way more questions than I expected about this old school photography. So, my photography goes back quite a bit, but black and white photography and film just seem to go hand in hand, right? I guess that's the concept that everybody thinks. But, there's just so many ways that we can visualize in mono thinking. I thought that I might make this show a little bit about the mono look. Yeah, it's just old school. There's another old school picture. And my vintage jam today, I thought I would talk about the legend camera, one that's on the back up there. It's just kind of there. Make sure I've got another picture there. Oh yeah, the vintage jam. There it is. That's what the vintage jam is going to be about. The legendary Pentax Spotmatic, used at schools. Probably, if you were at school, you probably used one if you're old like us. It was a camera that was probably most remembered at school. Oh, I used to use a Pentax. And we treasure our memories of our Pentax cameras in our schools. So if you're watching me on this website, I hope you can settle in. We're going to enjoy what we're going to talk about. If you post, a comment, that'll be cool. I'll know that there's more than, a few people out there. And and we'll come back right after this. And we're back. And we're back. It's a cold and rainy night here in Sydney. I don't know what it's like in Melbourne. Maybe someone can tell me in Melbourne what the weather's down like there. Hello, Uncle. Hello, Craig. Um, we're talking about a week ago. It was almost raining. It was out in the city taking black and white photos, and here we are a week later. And I thought, you know, something I think my funny story that my funny moment, because I always try and bring up a little funny moment that have happened to me. That's happened to me in the industry. Us industry people, we have that, but also, you know, what happened in my photographic growing up life. You know, I used to go to Newtown High School. Don't hold that against me. Newtown High School. I did photography class there, right? So the photography class, which entailed using photography cameras, using Pentax cameras and Mamiyas as well. We had a Mamiya. So we had a dark room at Newtown High School, which was top level, 3-level building. It was the top level next to the art room. Okay, then, so it was the end of the building. And in those days, you developed your photos. So the process of, we would develop the negatives, we would dry the negatives, and then we would print the photos on the paper. So the whole idea about the printing on the paper was that when you put the paper through all the different cleaning baths or developing baths, you'd have to wash them. So we would use a baby bath. So we would have a tube coming through the top of the baby bath. We'd have a hole there. Inside, we would put the prints, and then on the bottom of the baby bath would be an outlet water. So the prints would wash. And in those days, we're talking like 1977, you know, it wouldn't be hard to just leave the water running all night just to wash the prints. That's just what we would do, right? So things have changed. We think more about water nowadays. So it was HSC time. So HSC was on the second level, underneath the art room, underneath the photo room, the music room. And the music room was where the HSC was being held. So, you know, I was printing while HSC was going on. So there's one morning where we're lining up in the schoolyard there, and my photography teacher, my photography teacher was in the music room, and one of the other teachers had said, Joe Moreno, Photo Joe, probably, can you see Mr. Sabrin in the music room after assembly? I thought, oh, okay then, let's see what's going on there. So rocked up to the music room, and as I'm there's Mr. Sabrin, and he's got like sponges and buckets and cloths and towels and just drying all this wet table from upstairs. So I had left the water run all night, which the normal process. But there was this little thing that would happen every now and again, which was a bit of a bugger. So, and the bath was like on a sink, right? So the water would come in through the top, and then we would drain it into the sink. But the tube on the outlet would sometimes get blocked from the prints that were in there. So the water then would overflow, and the whole idea was that it would overflow into the sink. Well, not this day. So it hit the floor, and then it kind of just kept going all night and basically flooded the music room, which had flooded the HSC room, which didn't go down so incredibly well. Anyway, so that was my little story, my little funny moment of Newtown High School, of funny stories of my photographic stuff. Right, here we go. Picture, there's me. Look at me. That was last week. Thanks, Uncle. Thanks for taking that shot in our little street sojourn. And you know, the thing is, like, every week I troll through the internet to find, in a Japanese restaurant, they can't understand me. Japanese restaurant, what would I want from, karage. Oh, karage. Yum. Sorry. For people who are, teppanyaki's okay. You can have that thrown at you, but go to Japan and go to a karage place. And we've also got my mate from Milton, mate. Go strong there, Mr. Milton. Yeah, pumping it there. Get that bloody Get that big C out of the way. We'll get that sorted out. Anyway, I digress as I talk about where I was. So I troll the internet. I go and check it out, see if there's things that of interest. And because I had the black and white night, I was kind of look on the. There just seems to be a little bit. There's a little bit of a thing about black and white and film photography. And look, I guess at the end of the day, that was the thing about last week. I was trying to get my students there to focus on textures and to focus on the shadows, to not look at life or to look at the city in color. And let me tell you, it was bloody hard not to look because the Christmas lights were happening and there was such great color in there. But I was really just trying to make sure that they were only thinking in black and white. And really, it's what I love about black and white as well, is that even though I'm looking through the viewfinder in color, I am thinking a black and white kind of vision. And that's part of the advantages of shooting in RAW, I guess, is that you can still think black and white, but still get that color version just in case. And always used to say, no, you don't want to do that, but you probably do. You do, actually. If I'm going to shoot film, I'm cooking it in black and white. So I guess one of the questions that one of the students had asked me was, why is film so cool now? Because, I was talking about it a little bit. But when digital was becoming popular, it wasn't. And I guess in a way, that's a very, it's a very kind of great question. As an old person, well, geez, when digital came in, I was still loving my film. I loved the convenience of digital, and I think that was the thing about digital, this instantaneous thing that I could view straight away, send it across the world, so I could document straight away. But in a way, I was losing the artistry of taking a photograph, and I guess that's where, for me, the black and white process is about creating an artistic photograph than a documentary photograph. Now, I look at stuff and I photograph in different environments, and there are, I guess as a general photographer, there are times that I like to think certain types of photos. And so the last week, the black and white noir night. Now, there's something alluring, I guess, about a black and white film shot that you don't get with a digital camera. So, hello, Min. Min's just joined us. How you going? I think the thing about a film camera is the element of surprise that you don't get with a digital camera. And I used to, we used to love the fact of being able, and we still do, to take that photo and see it straight away. This certain instant gratification, which works in our society. Our society works like that. It's instant. Here it is. I took a picture of my food. That hurt. And I had to share it straight away. I don't send pictures of food. I don't believe so. Might have had the odd coffee shot because it was just good for coffee. But, film cameras, when we used to shoot a film shot, and when you do that, you're thinking about the aperture, you're thinking about the shutter speed, you're thinking about the film that you've got in there. And that's really quite exciting because it might or it might not work, and if you get to take that film into a darkroom, to put the film into a roll in a canister in total darkness, to then pour chemicals into it for 20 minutes, and every minute you got to give it a little spin, and for 10 minutes, 12 minutes, I can't remember my little map, I had a little thing on the wall with all the measurements and all the timings is the word I was trying to think of, and so I would pour that out, and I would put in the stop bath, and that would go there for a minute, and then I would pour that out, and then, chemicals straight into the developer would go back into, I would reuse that. Actually, I would reuse the fixer too. And then I put the fixer in, and then I would put the water in, let it wash out, then pull the films out, look at the films, put it into an enlarger, see it on a piece of paper. It's just a massive moment. So I get very excited about film cameras, just in case you kind of hadn't really picked that up. But I guess today, for people who have used film cameras, or who haven't used film cameras, they've come into this. My daughter, the 1996s, that generation, they've gone into their cameras, they've gone into their digital cameras. It's all about instant. and their only access is a disposable camera. And disposable cameras, they're kind of pretty cheap, depending on where you go. I did kind of see a disposable camera in a shop in World Square for $60. Like, and I think people buy them. But disposable cameras, easy to use. Okay, then you don't have to know about ISO, shutter speed, or aperture or stuff. You press the button, you take the picture, and you have a laugh at the picture that you took. There's no thinking about it. And even though it's the quality is pretty kind of ordinary, at the end of the day, we are adding that look using filters. Yeah, all those Instagram filters that are making it look like film. So, film has this beautiful this thing that you've got to wait for, right? Oh, but disposable cameras, maybe they're not very environmental. Well, I guess there's plastic in them, but they recycle them. So when they go back to the shops and they're being filmed, that all that mechanism is being recycled. Yes, I know there is energy in recycling that. So, okay, so you want to get into film photography, and there are a lot of people who are getting into film photography. Get onto Instagram. Oh my God, it is amazing. I have a friend, Rewind. You're not listening, but hey, one day you might. I might even put a little ad in here. I don't know. Rewind down in Glebe. Film, that's all they do. They got the uni up the road. Film is very, very popular up there. So film is becoming really, really thriving. Film is getting hard to find. The companies, the Kodaks, the Fujis, they're not making as much film as they used to. So if you look at the price of film today, it is a little bit more expensive. So maybe you get yourself a secondhand camera. Oh my God. There are so many secondhand cameras out there for sale. From compact cameras, get onto Facebook, get onto eBay. People are busting selling their cameras. What are they getting for them? Well, depends on who's looking. It depends on who's there and goes, hey, I'll buy that I'll buy that film camera. I don't buy film cameras. I already got all the film cameras I have. I used to have a film camera that I lent to somebody who's probably not watching. I'd like it back and the lens. Anyway, film had lots of variations in the old days. There was Tri-X and there was Plus X. And I'm going to change pictures here to show black and white pictures as I'm supposed to be doing. This is all part of last week's show, last week's class. That photo might have been taken right this second as we're talking. Maybe right this second. That would be funny. Just great. I just love the look. But with film as well, when you're looking at a film shot, in the old days, the Tri-X, the Plus X's, if you were using Ilford film, the HP5s, the XP2s, there was the grain. There was the finest grain for 3200 film. There was all this terminology about film. We were looking at qualities there. We weren't looking at pixels. We were looking at the type of grain that we would get out of our films, yeah? And if you worked in an Australian, if you worked in an Australian school, you're older than I am. But if you went to an Australian school and you did, you did photography, Kodak films were the staples. Well, they were at Newtown, the old Plus X and the Tri-X, as I was saying a little bit earlier. There was the 125, I think it was, the 125 ASA, a fine grain. So today we would call that low noise, okay? Which, a 125 ISO ASA. Required good light. You'd need to shoot it in good light, and you get really sharp details because of the fine grain. But then, there was the Tri-X film, which was for faster action type of photography in brighter situations. So that was like a 400 ISO, 400 ASA, but it was grainier, right? It was grainier. We would call it noisy. In fact, if we go back to early DSLR, digital SLR cameras, things like the first early Canons at 400, there was so much noise that, it was like looking through chicken wire. Okay. So all those films, we would develop them in. Do you remember Dictol? Do you remember D76? That was the stuff that was used to develop our films. That was a shot from Sue. We did a lot of movement photography as well, playing with shutter speeds. That's the fun thing about this night, because because the light's low, we play with shutter speeds. We weren't even really using tripods. Our sessions are always quite organic. organic. Sometimes we use tripods. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we get wet. Sometimes we don't. That's how we kind of go. And this was interesting because this is what as I was trolling through the internet. I love using that line, trolling through the internet. Kodak. Now, okay, I'll just one step back. Kodak still exists, right? They still exist. Now, more in the pro market. So if you're kind of like in the world of cinema, they're up there, right? They're not playing the game down here. They're not playing the game to us anymore. They kind of went, you guys got into digital, we killed that, and so that we're just going to play where there's lots of money, like film. So there's top end stuff. But they kind of advertised on their Instagram of a disposable camera. Now, disposable cameras they've just not died out. You can still go to a wedding and you'll still, if people are smart enough, they'll go, oh my God, let's get disposable cameras. And that way people can take pictures at the tables. So they're touting this Tri-Hex, this 400 camera, 27 frames, single use is pretty primitive. It's just film, shutter button, a flash, a winder, so you can go, isn't that great sound? You can wind it on, moving that roll to the next exposure. It was like a 30 mil in 32, so, nice wide angle. It was like an f10 lens, nice depth of field, sharp shots, I think it was one shutter speed, 1/25 of a second. It's all you need. Fixed focus, 1 meter, infinity. It's just click. And you just got to get the composition right? You just got to get the composition right. So you can go and check out. There are some sample shots that I saw on the Kodak Instagram site. So go and check it out. But it's kind of like with all this talk though, nobody's actually can find where to buy one, right? So I think they're just testing the waters because they kind of put it out there. Like these companies are going to put it out there and see what the social network people say. What do they think? So I guess they're just sussing it out. So I mean, like, what would you think? Here's a question for you. If you're out there, if you're listening, if you're watching, how much would you be prepared to pay for, say, a roll of, well, okay, let's say a roll of 27. That's a kind of a strange number though. I would say, 27. Let's say 27 because that's the number, right? How much would you pay for that roll, and how much would you pay to get those photos developed? What would be a reasonable price? Would the camera be worth $30, $40, $50? Right, it's a camera, it's film, and then the processing. What would that be worth? 27 photos. Is that worth $15, $25? You tell me. I'd be kind of curious. So, I'm Photo Joe. You are here on the Photo Jam. We will slightly be back just after this little moment. So that was a little slideshow from our group from last Tuesday. If you were here watching the show last Tuesday, that was Monday night. It was all very confused last week. We're coming up to Christmas. I'm Photo Joe. What have you been doing? How you doing? What you been doing? What's happening out there? Are you getting ready for Christmas? Are you getting work? We're almost able to go to another country. God, to go to another country, how wonderful that'll be. Queensland, it'll be wonderful. Oh, no, yes. Or even Western Australia. Who cares about Western Australia? Sorry. Geez, Western Australia. Now, I could potentially, I'll stay. Western Australia's 3 hours behind, so maybe they won't get this for a little while. Welcome back. We're here. We're talking about black and white. We're talking about film. We're talking about mono. We're talking about man buns, because that's kind of what happens when people, it's like vinyl records, yeah. Cool, black and white. Why is black and white so cool? Why do you love it? Do you love it? You need to put it on a little message there. You can even email me if you want to, and we can discuss it next week. I will be back next week. Just. I don't know if I'll be back the week after that because it's all getting Christmas. It's all getting very involved, very, very involved, and I don't know, but we'll work out something. But do you know there was another rumor, another little rumor on the internet web. There's a company. You remember Pentax? You remember Pentax? Pentax and Ricoh. Ricoh bought Pentax. Pentax existed. Pentax, Ricoh, Pentax. We all knew the name if we were old, if we're old. And if you're trendy, you'll know Pentax and Ricoh. Yes, still making SLR cameras. And they made a thing called the K3. It's a Mark III. Look at this sexy little beast. Sexy beast. That's got the little drive down the bottom there. It just and they're kind of making cameras that just look like it's just like, man, this is a camera, right? So this is the Mark III. It's been around for a little, well, the Mark I, Mark II, and they thought, hey, let's keep this up. I think it's like a 2-gram body. Sexy beast comes in silver and black. But they're kind of now creating this new variant of it. So it's already established, but they're going to say, hey, we're going to make an Astro variant, right? So especially for astrophotography, Canon's done that. Sony's done that. The Sony R and Canon, I think there's the R as well. But they're also making, they're adding to their area a monochrome camera. So this is a camera, right, that only takes black and white pictures. Now you're kind of thinking, and how hard is that? We did that last week. We just put the camera into black and white, and we took black and white pictures. But there's a bit of a difference to this, you see, because it's not about converting. See, what actually happens is that all cameras actually, initially, the little pixel things, right? They the sensor itself actually takes just light, variations of light from darkness to lightness. That's what the actual sensor does. And then on top of the sensor, there's like this little tablecloth over the top of the sensor that they call the Bayer filter. And this Bayer filter was the thing that Kodak was really big about. They invented this Bayer system, right? And this Bayer system on the top converted this light, it looked at the light and made color out of it, right? So in the process that it was transferring the darkness and the lightness to the Bayer filter to create color out of it, that process makes a thing called noise. We've heard that noise. We've heard that conversation before. Digital noise. It's all about digital noise. And the more that you trick up an image with a sensor, the more digital noise you make, right? And, you know, if you're kind of going to be spending thousands of bucks on a camera that's going to be taken like a black and white image, you kind of want it to be the cleanest. You want to be able to zoom in, pixel peep at 1,000,000 times to make sure that there's no digital noise when you're creating these black and white images, these monochrome images. Now, I have seen images out of these cameras. I have actually seen them, and they are pretty amazingly detailed. And it's the detail that, you know, I used to use a 100 Ilford film, and the detail that I would get on skin tones with that film was pretty amazing, which I got to say, the analog feel, the same feel that people get with records. There's a sound difference, and there is a film difference. There's a certain milkiness. There's a certain textural difference that you see with film. Whoa, that was intense. But anyway, now, you know, this is not the first camera. Leica's already done one. It costs like it's like way more expensive. But, you know, hey, it exists, right? So this Pentax camera, right? So it's a 25 megapixel APS-C size. So it's not even like a full framer. This thing's pretty wild camera. The K3, people love it. It's not all about full frame. They do have a K1. That's their full frame camera, but this is their APS-C. You know, it's got 1,000,000 times of cross type hair. It focuses amazingly. It goes up to like 1,000,000 ISO. I mean, look, you know, these cameras specs today are pretty kind of way out there. And I think it's just like, you know, if you've got a car that's like top end, you want it to have all the stuff, right? You're not going to necessarily use it. But yes, I just have a quick look. Oh, hi, all the way from Lake Macquarie. We got our Lake Macquarie Terry Thorne, ex-Brashers guy, woo-woo, in the old days. Welcome to the show. Well, I'm talking about a Pentax camera, the K3. This thing here, what a beast! What a beast! And it's just it's just a beast. 12 frames a second. It's a Pentax, right? And they still make cameras, hard to buy, right? And it's as I said, yes. So no Bayer filter. So this is the other one. This is the Leica, the M10 monochrome, right? And it's kind of it's pretty cool for a number of different reasons. If you're going to pay like $5,000, I think it's like 5-6 grand. I didn't check. It's way more than it's a lot. And you got the internet right in front of you. If you wanted to kind of just quickly have a look at how much a Leica M10, this is third generation. Let's try that again. This is third generation, right? Manual focus rangefinder, right? And it is strictly manual focus, no autofocus at all. Okay, then so you got to turn that dial on the front there. You can put lenses on it. I mean, this is mad as a lens. The first one didn't even have a screen on the back, right? It was like, you are going to take a digital photo that's going to be black and white, and it's going to be like film, and you're not going to be able to see the picture after you've taken it. You're going to have to wait until you get it into your computer. That's how serious Leica is with their cameras. It's pretty bold to make a black and white camera, whoever the company is. You'd have to wonder who's going to buy that camera. But I can tell you who's going to buy those cameras is the people who it's aimed for, right? It's not aimed for a phone shooter. It's aimed for a certain type of buyer who can buy something that's a little bit extra special. And that's why these cameras exist. I know that people out there going, hey, who would buy a bloody black and white camera? Like, seriously? What's the point? Well, the point is that it's Leica for a start, right? And it's like, if Leica in the camera world, it's an experience with Leica. I've been to their factory. I haven't been to their new factory. 2023, maybe. Hi, Leica. It's an experience to buy a Leica camera. There's a certain experience about it. I don't know. People do it with clothing. People do it with a number of different aspects. And Pentax are doing it because they have always historically had pretty cool cameras. Their DSLR cameras, the 645. Somebody might remember the 645 Pentax. Big format camera, beautiful wood grain. Oh, I wish I had a picture of it because I just thought about it now. Oh, yes. So this is the whole thing about the cameras. It's just like what we do. We want this stuff. We want it. I want a monochrome. Oh my God, I would love to own a $4,000 camera. It's 40 megapixels. Why wouldn't it's a full framer? It is a full frame camera. It doesn't have the low pass sensor. It shoots in black and white. I can tell my friends that I have a Leica, a monochrome, and some people are going to go, and what's that? Does it take video? And no, it doesn't. Yeah, because it doesn't. I mean, it's got Wi-Fi. That's kind of cool. The screen on the back on the new one, it's touchscreen. That's pretty kind of cool. I think it's about 1 million pixels. It's not even that high in pixels. But hey, it's not about looking on the back of the screen. That's just so that you took the shot, right? Chimping, they call that. Chimping, you shouldn't have. But hey, that's the thing. You're going to go into a shop, and if you kind of go, oh, drool, I want that, they're going to say, well, you need it. And you're going to go, do I really want it? We all want that edge. We want that edge. We want to improve our photography. We want the new gear. We want it all. And, the companies do it. They kind of say, buy me all the time. And that's because, hey, it's a hobby. For me, it's guitars. I spend way too much money on guitars, though I am stopping this year. I'll just buy a cable this time. But, no piece of gear, no guitar's going to make you $1 million better. You just got to kind of know how to use it, right? Getting those skills up. And I think that was the beautiful thing that I was getting from people last week, was that they felt like they were getting something out of going for a walk in the wet. They didn't need the gear lust. I had somebody who had a 20-year-old camera, and the lens, it was funny, actually. I was thinking, why are your pictures so Not right. Oh, let me just have a look at the filter you've got on there. And oh my God, there was like so much gunk on this filter if you're watching it. And he said, oh my God, that's ridiculous because that filter was so clean 20 years ago. It was such a laugh. It was such a laugh. Anyway, we need to know how to use our gear. Even just using your iPhone, got to know how to use it, right? Just keeping the lens clean is kind of cool. So if you're still interested, it's next Sunday. We're still walking the streets of Marrickville. This is going to be the last one before Christmas. There is something happening in between Christmas and New Year. You might just have to check out the website to have a look. But hey, if you've got your phone, or if you've got your black and white camera, whatever camera you got, bring your smartphone, bring your DSLR, bring a lens, and come and take some pictures around Marrickville this Sunday coming up. You can just check out the website, and we will come after. And what we'll do, we'll come back after this little thing of the graffiti tour. Yes, next Sunday, weather's going to be fine. Weather's going to be fine. And if it's not going to be fine, it's going to be fine anyway, right? Because whatever type of situation, whether the light is glorious with sun, new areas of Marrickville, very, very kind of cool areas. Now, I'm just looking back at some of the questions that I said hi from Milton. Sorry, if you like a Canon, that's okay. You can like a Canon. You can like a Nikon, you can like a Sony, you can like them all because I can look after them. It's all okay. Those menus, those slippery little sucker little menus there, they just go through there. That's what I do. I hope life is good down there in sunny Melbourne. Having some fun down there, Uncle. Lake Macquarie, that's a very nice part of the country. I think we can go there. You're not that far, so we can drive there. I've got four-wheel drive. I can drive to Lake Macquarie. So next Sunday, if you want to come to it, it's going to be very cool. We're going to go hang around. There's a brewery. We can find a little brewery. And that little brewery is kind of cool because it's what it is. So where are we here? It's 20 to 9, 20 to the hour. And I'm supposed to be a little bit behind or in front because I guess the thing was that the whole process of taking a black and white photo, because that was a question that came through to me a little earlier. The process of taking a black and white photo is, what's the point? Well, the point is that some imagery works better when you're actually taking the color out of it. It puts more emphasis into the story that you're telling as you're taking the image. So when I was starting my black and white world, it was my art teacher who told me how to wash the films, right? He didn't tell me how to actually flood the room, but hey, that was a story. If you want, you can always cue back to see what that story was about. But he always used to say to me, think in black and white, feel in color. And I was like, think in black and white, feel in color. Like, hello, what was that? Now, art teachers, I think they smoke the funny stuff every now and again. I think. So I heeded to that and kind of went, okay, so what does that really mean? So when I talked to my students, it was about shapes and shades, especially in a darker environment. If you look at white light, actually, here we go. Let's just quickly let me just quickly go here. Oh, see, I love this. Oh, that's not it. That's my video. Oh, that's not it. Oh, I almost had the night right tonight, apart from that little moment. Here we go. now I can do this. Now I do this. Oh, so much better. A black and white image, right? If we look at this image here, now as a color, oh, we're back on me again. No, we're supposed to be back here. That's where we are. So if you look at the image here, as I zoom in, we have shades. So if we look at this part here, this is white, yeah? And then there is black, which is what is in this area here. Now, between black and white, there is other shades. There's a midder grey. And so if you look at the white, for example, there's another, not as bright as that, but it is another white. And that's what the histogram actually tells us, is how much white do we have and how much black do we have. So we have a lot of darker colors in this shot here because we have a lot of the graph to the left-hand side. The left-hand side is the darker side. And it's quite intense. So you have the left-hand side represents the darker side, and then the height represent the intensity of the shades that we have. So we have a lot of dark shades, there, and we have, say, a lot of dark shade there. So that is that representation around here. We do have white spots, not much of it. There's a little peak there, which would be the light itself. So when you're looking at this, now if you're looking at it in color, you see something like this, for example, right? And you now start to be a little bit taken by the green. Now, in the moment, you might think, hey, that green looks pretty kind of cool. But you got to kind of think about that. It is detracting away from now the shapes, okay? Because the shape was the actual stone. And in fact, it doesn't even really, the shape has kind of disappeared into here and it's not so noticeable, yeah? Which can detract from the original photo. Now that might be what you're after. That's really part of it. If we go here, for example, let's have a look at this shot in black and white. So we're starting to see movement. There's actually, if we look at our graph here, the intensity of black is not so much. There is darker areas, as is represented onto the left-hand side here, and we have more light bits. So you'll see how it's not heading down in a forward down the valley, I guess is what we call that. Now, if we turn that to color, now we start to get a lot of colors in there. It's starting to look a little bit busy. Where in that shot there, I see better the fact of the movement of the light rail itself. So this is the thing that you can get with monophotography, and we'll just pick another shot, just pick another one out. Oh, this is an interesting one. So this was a shop that was on George Street that had all these dresses here. Now, if we look at the original color, that's how it looked. Which kind of looks all right because you kind of got this creamy look there, but you got the blue chair that was bugging me a little bit. We got the white. I mean, this area actually is okay. It's got an older vintage feel look. The lighting is warm, so the white balance is warm, okay, but we've got this blue here. So by me making that black and white, it's now disappeared. It almost feels like it's part of it. Now, it's just, you know, it is a personal preference. And for me, I do like this black and white. It just, well, it detracts away from this chair here. Actually, I'm also detracted away. This jar down here is affecting me. Oh, the sanitizer jar, which I didn't notice so much in the black and white version of it. Now, this is a tricky one because in color, it looks like that. But in colour, you might get Louis Vuitton having a go at you at it. So I'll just keep the black and white version of it. I didn't use his colours. What do you think? What do you think? When did you last take black and white photos? Is that something that with black and white photos, it's, you know, would you like to be taking it with film? Do you think that would be the coolest way to do it? Have you thought about taking film? Is it too hard? You know, it takes time. It's like a good meal. It does take that little bit of extra time to put together a film photograph, especially if you're using a manual camera. Can you imagine having to use a manual light meter? Yes. And that is what? The Vintage Jam. I need to put some kind of, I don't know, little jingles in here. Now, what I did find, though, is because it's going on to Facebook, Facebook is kind of hitting me up with the the music saying, "Oh, hello, we can't play it on, we can't put it on your website because you're playing music that might be copyrighted, but it's not because I got it for free, and it's for free. I can use it on YouTube, but I can't use it on Facebook. So the jingles, yeah, they'll be there. We'll work that out. But our vintage jam today is the Asahi, Asahi Pentax, the Spotmatic camera. I'm just having a little drink here. It was introduced in 1964. So this camera was introduced a year after I was born. That was kind of cool, because this means that this camera and me are both very chilled. We're both cool, and we both have grey. It was the first camera that actually had through the lens light metering. So you would look through the lens and you would see the light meter inside. And because it was fully manual, you had to adjust the shutter. You had to adjust the speed. There was no shutter priority. There was no aperture priority. There was no program. It was fully manual. That's back to me again. I need to go back to the camera again because I was reading this stuff. It was a very good camera. Very good camera. The camera was entirely mechanical, fully mechanical, except for the light meter. So the light meter was the only thing that had a little button battery for the light meter. So fully manual, fully mechanical. There, you look at that little switch on the side there. Oh, there's a little switch on the. Well, what you see right in front is the self-timer, but on the other side, to your right, there's a little black switch there, and you would push that up and down to activate the meter for the exposure, right? And then there was a little needle inside the viewfinder, and you had to get the needle in the middle. There was a little plus or minus inside the viewfinder. And you would be looking at getting it. And this is my one. That's the one that you have a picture of. Now, this is not one that I had from school. It actually was, it belonged to somebody, one of my clients, and they kind of said, "Hey, can you get it looked at? Because shim no work. It's a little bit stuck, right?" But yeah, I do have somebody who I will take it to. I'll go and pick up my lens. But if you look on the side here, okay, this is where I need to go to my close-up. Go to my close-up camera number 2. Thank you very much. So on the side here, that little button there, I would flick that up, and then that would switch on the light meter. And so the light meter, well, obviously can't see the light meter, but if you could imagine that there'd be like a little plus on the top and a minus down the bottom, and there's like a little gap, and the needle's going up and down. And as you tell the camera, so let's have a look. So on this dial here, this is the ISO of the camera. So you tell it what film you're using, whether you're using 100 or 200, etc. And then you made a decision, right? So you'd be thinking, okay, well, I've got a shutter speed here, right? So all my shutter speeds from a thousandth of a second down to half a second. Okay, then. So if I'm thinking sports photography, I might be thinking around the 500th of a second of an area, right? And so then my camera here has where are we? Has the aperture control. So as you can see, I can adjust the aperture. Pretty stiff aperture, but you actually see, there you go. You see the aperture opening and closing, right? Letting in more light, letting in less light. And that's obviously not working properly because normally, actually this version, maybe that did work like that. So as I was letting in more light or less light, this needle that I would be looking through the viewfinder would be going higher or lower. And so I'd be trying to get the exposure in the middle, the needle in the middle, right? And that really just depends on the shot that I was taking. So, if it was a backlit shot, for example, like today, I would overexpose the photo. So instead of using the camera and keeping the needle in the middle, I would go to the more exposure, letting in more light, either letting in more light with my lens or letting in more light by by the shutter, by increasing the shutter speed. So in the film camera, I had to be balancing that act all the time. I had to be careful because, I mean, this is a 1.4 lens here, so a very shallow depth of field. So if I'm also manually focusing, I have to make sure that I nail the focus on my subject, that I have enough depth of field in my aperture, because I don't want to be shooting at, say, 1.4 and trying to manually focus on a subject that could be coming towards me or away from me, and then having to make sure that my shutter speed was going to be able to deal with that. So really, you know, in a street photography world, I'm really thinking about my aperture up front first to see how much depth of field I'm going to require for the type of street shooting I'm going to do. Now, when you're in a black and white environment and things are just kind of happening, you know, slow shutter speeds is where you might go. You might go, cool, I'm just going to set my camera to 1/8 of a second. And people were doing that last week. They were shooting at 1/8 of a second and then just adjusting the aperture to make sure that they were getting the visions that they wanted to get. Movement was the biggest the biggest fun that we had the other night. I think you'll agree. Screw mount thread. So, let me just get back to my close-up button again. So this is a screw mount. So it's the what they call the M42. M42 mount. There's a little pin there that actually works the aperture, which is not working there at the moment. The M42 mount was also, as a Pentax mount, was also used by Ricoh as well. And on a camera that I showed a little while ago, thank you to Uncle Wayne, on a Olympus, an FTL. It was their first SLR camera that they bought out, a little bit rushed. It was that wasn't supposed to happen. Oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. That's supposed to happen. I pressed the wrong button. The M42 mount, so Olympus were a little bit rushed. And they basically borrowed this body. They made their own metering system, and that was kind of cool. But you can actually interchange an Olympus and a Pentax in that M mount. So that's my vintage Jam camera. Yes, it was given to me. They kind of said, well, hey, listen, it's not no good for me, so I just put it. It's up here somewhere. There it is. That's the one just there, actually. Next to a bunch of other little Pentaxes. So that's my vintage jam for tonight. Now, if you look around, there's actually a couple of different names on the Pentax, which I noticed online as well. So that was kind of an interesting thing. Did you own one of these? Did you own a Spotmatic, or did you own a K1000? Do you remember the Pentax K1000? I don't have a Pentax K1000. The K1000, very similar to the Spotmatic, except it had a bayonet mount. It had the K mount. And that's where it all kind of went for Pentax, is the K mount. And so they have, Pentax and Nikon are really the two cameras out there that have used their history to bring their cameras forward. So, they had a film camera, right? And so then we went into the digital world. And in the digital world, it was about, well, hey, can I use my film lenses on my digital cameras? And when it came to Nikon, yes. When it came to Pentax, yes. When it came to Canon, no, yes, not really, easily, no, kind of. Forget about Sony. They didn't even have a camera mount. They didn't have a mount at all. Who else is there? Leica got their own mount. Well, Leica, they're still using their stuff. So, it was a pretty big thing. Minolta. If you heard of Minolta, well, they don't exist anymore. So that was Sony, right? Olympus made their own mount because they were going digital. They were going mirrorless. Then they kind of went, well, do you know something? To make a mirrorless camera work properly, we can't use old lens technology. So they started fresh. And you know what's happening now? Canon and Nikon have now joined the mirrorless world. Yeah. And they actually said, yeah, but hey, you can bring the mirrorless using an adapter, and the adapter is a pain. That's why Olympus went, no, we're not going to do adapters. It's a pain. They have an adapter, but it's not official, right? And it's no fun. So now Canon and Nikon, for their mirrorless cameras, they're making lenses that are for that camera. That's this lens is made for this camera. This lens, even though it might fit onto a digital camera, it's not designed for digital. In fact, digital really, and I think this is the thing. I think I've just reached the pinnacle of exactly what this is about. Right? Digital photos are too sharp. That's it. Done it. I've said it. It's out there. Digital photos, they're too bloody sharp, right? And I say that because when it comes to CD music, it's too sharp. It's too edgy. It's too perfect. It doesn't have softness and mistakes and scratch and pops and dust and stuff. It doesn't have analog. And that is what we are missing today in digital cameras. We're missing the analog. And in fact, I think, now I come to think of it, because I'm just thinking about it. I know this is dangerous, and I've only got 2 minutes to think. But I think the whole process of actually making a black and white camera is so that it can look soft. I know, folks, this is what it's all about. Oh, that's the close-up shot. So I think you have to just watch this while I come back. And that is what we did a couple of weeks ago. And that's coming up again. So, well, I don't know. I can't believe that for another hour I've been able to ramble on and have people listen to me. Quite amazing. My goodness, the planes are going off tonight. I don't know if you can hear them on this Rode microphone that they don't really pay for, but anyway, it's part of sponsorship. But I don't know. Wow, a lot of planes been going on tonight. On a Tuesday night between 8 o'clock and 9 p.m. every Tuesday. I think next week might have to be the last one, just for a little while, just while we get over Christmas. And then we'll go from there. So I hope that you've learned something tonight. I hope you've been inspired for something tonight. I hope you had a laugh moment. I hope you kind of went, oh man, that guy is just nuts. Because I think that's what tends to happen after a little while, is that I just go a little bit nuts. So thank you very much. Once again, I'm Photo Joe. This was the Photo Jam. It's coming up to Christmas. That red man. Come and check out my website. There's so much stuff you can get from there. Bye for now.